Our first photo takes us to the night of June 3rd, 1991, somewhere between 9:30 and 11 at night. A man walked into the Super 8 motel off a quiet stretch of road in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He said that he was a local truck driver and gave his name as Eduardo Collin. He paid cash for a one-night stay, with 2 guests. He signed the motel register with mostly accurate info, except for the license plate number. That was a fake. Then he was given the keys to room 233. By 11 o'clock the next morning, Eduardo was supposed to check out, but he didn't. 2 days passed before on June 5th, a motel security guard knocked on the door. There was no answer, and the door was locked from the inside. He forced it open with a screwdriver. When he entered the room, it was eerily quiet. Something felt off. The bed was untouched. Empty bottles of alcohol were on the table, and in the middle of the bottles sat a digital scale with the name George Martinez written on it in marker. Then the guard opened the bathroom door. There, hanging from the shower rod by a suitcase strap, was the body of a woman. She had likely been dead since the night Eduardo checked in. Also found in the room was a photograph. It was grainy and low res, something you'd see from a mall photo booth. The photo showed the woman smiling beside a man. Motel staff were sure it was Eduardo, but the photo didn't tell the truth. It would take years to track down Eduardo's family. By the time investigators found them, Eduardo had already died of natural causes. When they showed his relatives the photo, the answer was chilling. That wasn't Eduardo. And they had no idea who the woman was. For decades, the woman remained nameless, unidentified. Then in March 2021, a lead surfaced. Someone claimed her name might have been Becca, a young woman from LA County, maybe Reseda or Silmar. She may have flown into Albuquerque from Los Angeles or Burbank, but no last name and no solid ID. The Albuquerque Jane Doe had curly strawberry blonde hair. She had either hazel or gray eyes and was possibly of Hispanic heritage. Toxicology later revealed illegal substances in her system at the time of her death. She was wearing multicolored bikini-style underwear, size 6, men's. She had on a Trends brand tank top, white Guess denim slacks with zippers at the ankles, 3 white metal earrings, and a thick silver and gold bracelet. She carried a brown suitcase full of women's clothes, and she had a dark suede purse and a patterned pocketbook. Inside was $500 in cash. And that photo, the only image that might show her face, believed to be captured just hours before she died. No ID, no confirmed name, just a haunting story in room 233. It was supposed to be his first real adventure. On July 18, 1991, 12-year-old Jared Michael Negrete set out on a Boy Scouts backpacking trip into Southern California's San Bernardino Mountains. It was his first time spending a night outdoors, first time carrying everything he needed on his back. The plan was to summit Mount San Gorgonio, Southern California's tallest peak. But Jared, still new to the physical demands of high-altitude hiking, struggled to keep up. As the group moved ahead, the scout leaders made the decision that they'd continue toward the summit and Jared would catch up. Except he didn't. Other hikers on the trail would later recall seeing a boy matching Jared's description. He was cutting through trails, likely trying to shorten the path, something dangerous, especially on those steep, unstable slopes. One man, a firefighter from Santa Ana, saw him around 6 p.m. and warned him not to stray from the trail. That was the last time anyone saw Jared alive. By nightfall, the scout leader had hiked 12 miles in the dark to report Jared missing. At 7 the next morning, the search began. Helicopters hovered low, rescue teams combed the forest on foot, and bloodhounds were brought in. For days they searched. Then on July 21st, they found a set of small footprints at the 10,000-foot level, likely Jared's. The terrain was brutal. Loose rock, steep drop-offs, dense brush. One slip, one wrong step, and you could disappear. Basically, a good rule of thumb is that if you stay on the trail, you're fine. But the moment you stray, you're in danger. It's really that simple. 4 days later, the firefighter who last saw Jared led rescuers back to the spot on Vivian Creek Trail where he'd spoken with him. Then came the eerie discovery, on July 27th. Nearly 2 weeks after Jared disappeared, searchers found a Kodak disposable camera, 45 feet off the trail. It had 12 pictures on it. Most were scenic shots of the mountains and valleys, taken before he got lost. But the final photo was different. It was a close-up of Jared's face. Or part of it, just his eyes and nose captured by flash in the dark. As if he were trying to document something, or maybe leave a trace behind. Near the camera, they found a backpack, candy wrappers, and beef jerky. But no Jared. After 16 relentless days, the official search was called off on August 4th. The chance of survival by then, authorities said, was almost nil. Jared's family held a memorial service on September 7th in Hacienda Heights. Over 500 people came to mourn a boy who left for the mountains with excitement and wonder, and never came home. His story remains one of the most haunting cold cases in California wilderness history. Just a couple months ago, a Reddit user shared a story shortly after his uncle passed away. There wasn't much to inherit, just a small overgrown lot with a weathered old shed. The property was left to the user's dad. No house, no valuables. Just that sliver of land and the shed. It was only when they finally opened the shed that things took a strange turn. Inside, gathering dust on a warped wooden shelf, was a DVD case for Night of the Living Dead. But there was no disc inside. Instead, they found two items, a photograph and a torn scrap of paper covered in strange, deliberate markings, symbols that almost look like runes. The photo showed a quiet corner of London, St. James's Park, facing the Solemn Guards Memorial. Reddit users quickly mobilized, digging into every detail. The symbols, at first undecipherable, were cracked by a few sharp-eyed community members. The message hidden in the strange script read, "She would never understand our relationship was only that of work. I have watched the result of our time. He still has time until 30. It read like a confession. Or a warning. Maybe both. Speculation exploded on Reddit, but as quickly as the post surfaced, it went cold. No follow-ups, no new leads. All that remains is a decoded message, a photo, and a DVD case. It was just before midnight on June 8, 1988, when 22-year-old Matt Chase pulled up outside his Los Angeles home with his roommate, Teresa Dahl. They'd just finished dinner. Nothing out of the ordinary, just another quiet night. But before they called it, Matt remembered. He still had to deposit his paycheck. Teresa tossed him the keys to her car, a red 1983 Volkswagen GTI. She asked if he could grab some cat food on the way back. Matt left with just his bank card. No wallet, no ID. It was a short trip. The bank was only 2 blocks away. 10, maybe 15 minutes round trip. But Matt never came back. And by morning, Teresa and her brother Steve, both childhood friends of Matt, knew something was wrong. They called the Los Angeles Police Department, then took matters into their own hands. Steve phoned the bank, posing as Matt. Using his social security number, he got through. They were able to get the information that changed everything, that the card had been used multiple times. With this new information, Detective Scott Burkhart took the case, and from the start, he had a gut feeling that something about it felt different. It felt wrong. When investigators pulled Matt's bank records, a chilling timeline began to form. Matt made it to the ATM that night. He deposited his paycheck and took out some cash. Then he came back again, just 30 minutes later, and tried to withdraw $280. A strange move. There were more attempts later that night. $200 declined. Then an attempt for $100, but it was declined again. 11 minutes later, someone tried again from another branch across town. This time, there was a surveillance camera. The footage showed Matt, and someone else, standing too close. A man, stockier, shorter, looming over his shoulder, almost like he was forcing the transaction. No one lets a stranger stand that close at an ATM. Over the next 36 hours, Matt's bank card was used 5 more times. When the paycheck finally cleared, $400 was withdrawn. Then the card was confiscated by the machine, frozen by Steve and Teresa in a last-ditch effort to find out what was going on. The card was dusted for prints, but nothing was found. Police said it was either wiped clean or the man in the photo wore gloves. Matt's parents came down from Oregon. They spent nights combing LA's streets, convinced they'd spot the car. Then, on June 27th, almost 3 weeks after he vanished, Matt's car was found, abandoned, not far from where he'd last been seen. Inside was one clue. A blue bandana. It didn't belong to Matt. It didn't belong to Teresa. Police believed it belonged to whoever had taken him. The car was spotless. No prints, nothing to work with. For a while, theories swirled, but deep down everyone feared the worst. And the worst was confirmed 3 months later. On September 17, 1988, Matt's remains were discovered in a ravine near Pasadena. He had been shot, likely dead since the week he disappeared. Matt Chase had been murdered, and the case was classified as a robbery/homicide. His father, Frank, never stopped chasing answers. He kept his own notes, worked his own angles. When he died in 2007, his daughter Christina picked up the torch, and finally, in 2018, police gave her a name. David Bear Meza, 20 years old, a suspected gang member. He was the man in the ATM photo, identified by his own girlfriend. Circumstantial evidence sealed it. Ironically, Meza had been gunned down in a drive-by shooting just 2 days after Matt disappeared. June 10th, 1988. A corner in LA's violent Rampart district. It's believed Meza robbed Matt, forced him into the car, and took his life. Whether he acted alone is still unknown, but police consider the case closed. For Teresa and Christina, there's no closure. Only the silence left behind by a single late-night errand that turned into a nightmare. Our final photo of this episode is another one that comes from Reddit. About 7 months ago, a Reddit user shared a story that sent chills through the true crime community. He'd been browsing a local thrift store, just killing time, when he came across an old Kodak carousel slide box, sitting among the dusty shelves. Inside were vintage photos. Most were forgettable, but one stood out. When he saw it, he froze. Unfortunately, we can't show the photo on YouTube, but a link to the Reddit post will be in the description so you can check it out for yourselves. It shows a man, naked, lying on the floor between a bed and a wall. The bed, the wall, and the man are all covered in blood. What he saw disturbed him so deeply that he immediately called the non-emergency police line. The man told the dispatcher what he found, that it looked real, and that it didn't feel like a prank or a prop. They told him to stay put. An officer would be dispatched to meet him. When the officer arrived, they studied the photo together. The officer didn't dismiss it. He asked to see exactly where the man found it. Then he took down his information, bagged the photo, and said it would be sent off for processing and investigation. Before he left, the officer was honest. It might be a dead end. The photo had no known origin, no name, no context. Just a single disturbing image dropped in a box of forgotten memories, donated anonymously. The Reddit user ended the post by saying it was the last he heard about it. No calls, no follow-ups, no headlines, just silence. And to this day, 7 months later, whatever was in that photo remains a mystery.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.